Special all-women's edition of Inside Indiana Business. We begin with Melina Kennedy. Her career has spanned decades, from politics, a partner in a law firm, to moving up the ranks at Cummins, where she's currently a vice president. She shares more on what Cummins is doing to empower women around the world. Plus, launch Terre Haute, a membership-based collaborative co-working and business incubator space. That's where entrepreneurs and business organizations can meet, mingle, and create. Executive Director Shelley Klingerman shares what is fueling success while helping root and grow business within the local community. And in celebration of March being Women's History Month, in our Trendiana segment, Yelp's Brittany Smith will tell us about 5 fun ways to celebrate women throughout the month, from supporting a women-owned business to volunteering with a women-focused nonprofit, and much more. We'll have details on those stories and much more ahead on this edition of Inside Indiana Business. Hello and welcome to this special edition of Inside Indiana Business. I'm Gary Dick. We have something special planned for you this week. I'm going to open the show as usual, but then we'll have female guest hosts for each of our additional segments for this all-women's edition of our show. We begin with Melina Kennedy. She grew up in Indiana, went to IU, was a partner at the law firm of what was Baker & Daniels, served as Director of Economic Development and Deputy Mayor for Indianapolis Mayor Bart Peterson, and a lot more. She's moved up the ranks at Cummins now and currently serves as Vice President, Product Compliance and Regulatory Affairs. She takes pride in some of the key women's initiatives that Cummins is doing to empower women in the male-dominated world of manufacturing. And she joins us here off the top of the show with more. Melina, it's always great to see you.
Thank you, Gary. Great to be here.
We're going to talk about your journey, but I want to talk about Cummins because a lot of companies talk about diversity and empowering women, but there are a lot of examples where this big company, Cummins, is in the U.S. and around the globe.
Thank you. I love working at Cummins for lots of reasons, but the inclusion and diversity commitment is great. And it starts with our leadership. Our CEO, Tom Linebarger, is very committed to making sure that women have a voice and a place of leadership in Cummins. In fact, in Cummins is represented by approximately 40% are women. Our board of directors has 3 women, and we have a number of initiatives and other things that are more than just talk. They really contribute to inclusion and diversity, particularly women.
You announced a huge initiative, Cummins Powers Women, which is focused on women and girls, and I believe it's the largest community effort Cummins has ever undertaken.
It's really exciting, and it's global. As a global company, we're trying to make a difference in the lives of women and girls all over the world. We've invested over $11 million in a number of programs that are evidence-based to help women achieve success in a variety of conditions. Also advocate for legislation and government changes and policy changes that help women and girls all over the world. And it's something that's just really exciting. And again, our CEO is committed. Our head of our foundation, Mary Chandler, has been working hard on it, and it's achieving great results in a shorter period of time. You
have achieved success in the political world and certainly now in the male-dominated world of manufacturing. Talk about that journey, the challenges, the opportunities, how things maybe have changed over the course of your career.
Well, I think over time, I just hit the big 50 this summer, so I've seen things progress over the years in terms of how women are doing, and I think we've seen a lot of positives, but there's still a long way to go. Not long ago, when I was running for office, and people would ask me, what are you going to do with your kids? Probably most men don't get that question. But then I'm at a place like Cummins where I feel I've had the opportunity to grow and contribute and lead. And so I've seen a lot of positive progress, but I think most people would say that there's still opportunity for improvement.
What, in your view, to continue that improvement or to get to where things need to be, what needs to happen? Are there things that can be done? You mentioned the initiatives at Cummins. Can other companies or organizations do things to help the process?
I think so. Awareness, so things like the Indiana Conference of Women, bringing awareness to the table and talking about how we can promote women and work together, but also being able to see women in leadership roles is really important. So seeing companies like Cummins who have a lot of women in leadership roles and seeing other companies do that as well is really important for people to understand that women have a lot to contribute. We're more than 51% of the society. And so those are some of the things that I think can make a difference.
Yeah, a lot in manufacturing and some other kind of non-traditional fields, STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. So important. A lot of efforts to get more women and young girls engaged at a young age in STEM-related fields.
That's right. And that's part of the focus of the Cummins Powers Women Initiative, as well as other things that we're doing as a company.
You mentioned this earlier, but you mentioned about 40% of Cummins leadership team women, 1 in 3 employees women. Is a big part of it doing that on some of these initiatives to get women to see, hey, I can do that, I can be part of that?
No question. And so it's easy to say these words about diversity and inclusion, but you have to follow it up with action. And I think we would say even at Cummins, we still have more work to do, but progress has been made, and that's important so that it isn't just its actions as well.
Melina Kennedy from Cummins, great perspective. Great to see you as always. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Gary. I'm Jean Wojtowicz, president of Cambridge Capital Management Corporation. This week, the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a pandemic, pointing to the over 118,000 cases of the coronavirus illness in more than 110 countries and territories around the world. More cases have been confirmed in Indiana, while many strive to navigate all the information and still conduct business as usual. What can companies do to adapt to the situation? I'm pleased to welcome CVC Communications CEO Marilyn Moran-Townsend, who has a list of ways you can vaccinate your business in the face of economic disruption from COVID-19. Marilyn, welcome.
Thank you, Jean.
So I understand that you were perhaps ahead of the curve in bringing this issue to the attention of businesses.
True, it was on our radar because we've been there before. So I'm going to take you back 20 years to September the 13th. We were in New York City to produce a major nationwide training event 2 days after 9/11.
Oh my.
Of course, it got canceled.
Right.
As did because no company wanted to put their employees on airplanes. Now, I don't know if it was divine intervention or good planning, but we had previously invested just a few months earlier in what was at the time a brand new technology, the webinar. So we were able to move all of our customers to hold web meetings when they previously had planned to hold those meetings face to face. So over this 20-year period of time, we helped a lot of companies figure out how do you manage a remote workforce when it's really necessary. And economic disruption is making it necessary.
Absolutely, and companies have certainly gotten more comfortable with that kind of communication and that kind of interaction with their employees and vendors and others. Now, I also understand that you may have put together some interesting ways from an economic companies consider perhaps vaccinating their businesses against this current outbreak.
Right. When we noticed that this was coming, and about a month ago, I was in an economic. I asked the question, what are we doing to economically vaccinate, particularly the most fragile of businesses, startups? And that here, which includes a 10-point plan with such things as how do you train managers to work with a remote workforce when they have previously only worked face-to-face. So for example, one of the tips is that you get managers to focus on the outcomes and they make sure that they have set enough back-timed milestones so that the project will work properly. You make sure everyone understands their roles and everyone knows that they are valued wherever they are doing their work. If you have some work that you can move it to, for example, a factory that isn't under.
Absolutely, and we're going to see, many companies have pandemic plans. They're now testing those and putting those into motion in ways that perhaps can provide flexibility as well.
Yes. So it's important that we do that we make sure that our various employees understand how they can make good, productive use of this time. As an example,
Marilyn, thank you. I know there are so many
more,
help.
And we just have to have people look them up. BusinessStorytellers.com as well as Inside Edge is sharing the 10-point plan. It's totally free for all businesses.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Next, for Beverly Miller, it all began 32 years ago with a phone, fax machine to succeed. She chose the business of signs and her advice to other women who want to break through in male-dominated industries. When we come back.
Brought to you by Allegion, pioneering safety. You're watching a special all-women's edition of Inside Indiana Business. I'm guest host Marilyn Flowers, TechPoint Senior Director of Talent Programs. More than 3 decades ago, with less than $2,000 in seed money, no business plan or equipment besides a telephone and a fax machine, Beverly Miller founded A Sign by Design. It was a time and in an industry when there were few women leaders in business. And now, the signs created in their Zionsville-based company can be seen all over not only Indiana, but across the country. It's so great to have such a pioneering woman with us today. Welcome, Beverly.
Thank you.
Bet. So I want to start at the beginning, when you started your company 32 years ago as a struggling single mom. What made you think at that point, signage, that's my jam?
Well, I was studying to be an accountant, and I was interning with a sign company, and I was given the opportunity to sell signs. So the first signs I went out and sold were men and women's restroom signs. I was so proud of myself for doing that. But then it got to the point where I started to sell to developers, big shopping center owners, and found out that I had a passion to Mansfield.
So your company is a full-service commercial sign company that takes on all aspects of getting a sign installed, including the permitting, design, manufacturing, and installation. Is it unusual to have a company that does all of those components?
No, it's not unusual for a commercial sign company to have that, because avenue where they don't have to go for different aspects. So we have people on nothing but research the permit the ordinances for the cities. We have people on staff that just do the design work. We have a full service and installation with cranes and all that. Maybe in a way we are a little bit different. That makes us more special than some of the other companies who might just do fabrication or just do installation. We do it all.
Fantastic. One of the things I really enjoyed reading about was your environmentally responsible approach to the work. And as somebody who works in tech, I get excited about following the technological advancements of different industries. So what do you think is next in the signage industry when it comes to that?
Well, the big thing in the last 10 years was LEDs, and people are still doing LEDs. They're doing fiber optics. We have a lot of fiber optic signage, and but basically that's where they're going. I'd like to see them with more materials, because people believe that signages are made, they're basically only made from metals, woods, and plastics. And so it'd be nice to see recirculated, take plastic and reinvent the plastic, and we start fabricating from that type of material.
Sure.
Yes.
Exciting things ahead.
Before, it was just nothing but fluorescence or neon. And everybody loved neon, but neon was high voltage, and it was unsafe, and it burned buildings down. So when they came out and said all LEDs, it was fabulous. The customers love it. It's low voltage, and it's less energy, so it was a win-win for everyone.
Fantastic. Well, you certainly are an accomplished woman, and I can imagine there are a lot of people who have learned from you during their career. What advice do you have for young women, particularly who are going into a field where there are not a lot of other women leaders to learn from?
Well, I would believe that you have to have a passion for what you want to do. You can't just go in and say, I want to do this. You have to have a passion. Then you have to work very hard and very smart and never give up. Don't give up.
Success is your honesty and your integrity. It will follow you through.
Great advice. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Next, Oswego County, where entrepreneurs and business groups can mix, mingle, and create. Guest host, founder of Power Body Language, Lisa Mitchell, chats with Launch Terre Haute Executive Director, Shelley Klingerman, about its mission, how it's helping launch careers, and what's next.
I'm guest host Lisa Mitchell, communications expert and founder of Power Body Language. Since 2015, Launch Terre Haute has helped grow the city's entrepreneurial ecosystem. The membership-based collaborative co-working and business incubator space is open to freelance workers, independent contractors, entrepreneurs, startups, local companies, and remote companies. Launch Terre Haute is where entrepreneurs and business organizations can meet, mingle, and create. With more on its mission is Executive Director Shelley Klingerman.
Hi.
Shelley, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, Indianapolis gets a lot of the spotlight when it comes to there's a lot of great innovation happening in Terre Haute and the surrounding areas, due in large part to the work that you're doing there at Launch Terre Haute. Can you tell us about some of the current initiatives that are helping to propel the growth there?
Actually, our region has gone through a planning phase, and we have all come together. We've listened to the community to see what it is they want, and we've brought all of that back to the community throughout the region. And what that's doing is it's starting to fill voids to go have the opportunity to fill these voids and open up new businesses around. Looking at building a convention center in downtown Terre Haute, which is going to require density of businesses around that. It's a great runway for entrepreneurs to maybe open up their dream retail, maybe or service business.
That's great. I love to hear about those exciting things happening. Programs that's spurring innovation in the tech industry is a monthly Tech Talk series, and you're hosting that there. Can you tell people what they can expect when they attend a Tech Talk and how that's helping to propel the entrepreneur Terre Haute and beyond?
Yeah, well, Terre Haute has a large concentration of higher ed, and so with those higher ed institutions comes a deep knowledge in some of these emerging technologies, and so we've partnered up with our Talk series to introduce what these emerging technologies are, to get an understanding, just a really basic understanding of what they are and how are they applied. Entrepreneurs who are maybe looking to form a business around one of these technologies, it gives them a little baseline. It also gives existing companies an insight to what we bake them into our existing business. Is there a market we could leveraging it? And also, as we all know, is there something disruptive coming down the pipe that we need to know about?
Yeah, absolutely. Such an important way to build community and provide resources. You're also hosting the Beta Accelerator Program. As a G-Beta alum myself here in the Indianapolis cohort, I know what an amazing program that is and what a valuable resource it is. How is the G-Beta program there in Terre Haute been able to help not only launch companies, but also connect them to investment?
The program is a 7-week program that really fosters 5 that they have chosen to bring into the cohort. They really handhold them through a process. Along the way, they open up a lot of their lunch and learns. They open up some of their resources to our local entrepreneurs who maybe are not going through the process, and to just existing businesses. So they have the opportunity to sit in on some of that education, which is participation.
That's awesome. And I know you have a deep entrepreneurial spirit there. How do you feel that ties into your success with your role?
Anytime you have an opportunity to get to resources, to education, to mentors and coaches, there is nothing bad.
For joining us, Shelley. Coming up next, we're celebrating Women's History Month, where everything from supporting women-owned businesses to raising a toast to the women paving the way in the alcohol industry. Yelp's Brittany Smith is here with this month's Trendiana Report. There she is in our Inside Indiana Business Social Media Lounge. We'll be right back.
In a special all-women's edition of the show, I'm Heather Tallman, Program Director for Indiana. Indiana segment takes you around Indiana to highlight some of the best the offer. When it comes to celebrating Women's History Month, the list has many options. From supporting women to the Madam Walker Legacy Center, which is a significant piece of our nation's history, to volunteering with a women-focused nonprofit. I'm pleased to welcome Yelp's Midwest Regional Director, Brittany. List of places and organizations we should know about.
Yes.
Welcome, Brittany.
Great. And hopefully inspiring people with 5 different ways to celebrate Women's History Month throughout.
A little bit about the Madam Walker Legacy Center.
Yeah, as you kicked off, I mean, Avenue downtown has gone through renovations, and now is a great to reopen. Beautiful historic landmark. It's actually a national landmark and really highlights the Walker. And to build upon that, you can keep learning more about Madam Walker by going to the Indiana Historical. With 1815, You Are There, Empowering Women exhibit with several. It's truly a beautiful exhibit and walking distance from the Legacy Center.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. We should be supporting women-owned businesses, but this month, what are we looking at?
Yeah, this is we love every day, and one of the fun things that's new actually in the Yelp world is that you can search women-owned businesses. And it'll actually pop up for near you, which ones are women-owned.
Nice.
They've opted in. Hot Room Yoga is a throughout the state. Now in Chicago, a great example of businesses that are owned by women and growing. Taqueria Los Tacos in Union City, Indiana. There are businesses on main streets throughout the state that are really making a difference in the community. So now's a great time to as well.
I think so. And I think this year marks the 100th anniversary of our right to vote.
Humanities, they've partnered up with a statewide organization of groups that are helping elevate this story from small towns from Monroe County to Crawfordsville. They're hosting events and that you can see right in your backyard that celebrate this right to vote, and you can learn something new about the state.
Well, what about the people who would like to vote? Opportunities are out there.
Yeah, a great example of this is Dress for Success. This is one of the dozens of throughout the state that are helping women. Locations in Fort Wayne, town Indianapolis, and they provide resources for women who are interview prep. If you're wanting to preparing for interviews, this is a really you can actually just go to the Yelp app and look up nonprofits near you, and hopefully you'll give back this season.
Nice. Well, let's end on an Indiana grown note.
Yeah.
Numbers to talk about too.
Exactly. This is raising a glass to women in the alcohol industry, which is often male dominated. These are businesses throughout the state that are really paving the way. Bear Wallow in Nashville, Indiana is such a fun spot. You can go there and do tastings. They have a variety of spirits. They do some fun ball jar shake-ups that I love as well. Another great example of that would be Scarlet Lane in McCordsville, Indiana. These are 2 great women pioneered businesses that you can support. Just the tip of the iceberg throughout the state.
Well, we can find more information using the Yelp app. Thank you, Brittany, so much for coming and celebrating this month. Coming up, 500,000 Hoosiers have faced with how to get back to normal. That's where the Coruna Precision Wellness Center by helping survivors regain their quality of life. On how it works up ahead in the business of health.
Hello and welcome back to Inside Indiana Business for this all-women's edition of our show. I'm Business of Health reporter Kylie Valletta. There are 500,000 cancer survivors in Indiana, but after they've beat the disease or finished their treatments, many of them struggle with how to get back to living full, healthy lives. A nonprofit in Indianapolis called Coruna Precision Wellness Center is opening its doors to tackle this huge gap in care. Located at the Indianapolis Healthplex, it will regain their quality of life by focusing on their physical and mental health and nutrition. Here to tell us more about her vision to support cancer survivors is the founder of Coruna, Dr. Jen Barger, thanks for coming to the show today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
It's a great topic. You've spent your whole career at IU Health. You're currently Chief of Hematology Oncology. You've talked about, you've dreamed about this center for a long time. Why do you see a need for this?
Yeah, absolutely. The whole field of oncology is incredibly exciting, and I think we've come such a long way, particularly in across the board, even with adult malignancies, in curing a large percentage of people who develop cancers. Was after treatment, many people are sort of feel very isolated, alone, and not really sure how to get back to the full healthy lives that they want to live. You know, and so I think in recognizing that gap, searched for services we could refer patients to and other things, and really found that it was truly a gap in our community and across the country. And dreaming about a way to fill that gap and to really truly be able to help people get back to life.
So you kind of exhausted the traditional route. So creating your own. So this new nonprofit, you're going to have 3 areas of focus. Tell us about those areas of focus and what kind of services you're going to
offer. Karuna is really, it is not medical care, and it's not intended to care that individuals get with their physicians, but really to help in complementing that care. That I've seen as a physician that people often struggle with. So focusing one on physical function and fitness. So that can range from addressing general weakness and to chemotherapy-induced peripheral neuropathy and a whole variety of other things. The second area, there really is an increasing awareness around the use of food as a medicine, or really conscious about optimizing nutrition. And so this will be nutritional counseling and meal planning specifically for the cancer and cancer survivor population. And the third area is what we're calling cognitive wellness. So addressing everything from anxiety and depression, kind of phenomenon that many people experience, to chemo fog, sometimes is a foggy thinking or difficulty with memory and things like that also tend to impact the survival.
Maybe thinking about as Karuna, which means to act out of compassion towards someone who, and that really has guided your vision for. I also want to mention the assessment that you do up front, a very in-depth assessment, is free, and this is open to any cancer survivor, regardless of where they receive treatment. And the precision, also in your name, is really important. Talk about the importance of that word being in your name.
So, I think one thing that has driven me throughout my entire career is in treating individuals. We recognize even with chemotherapy drugs and other medications that we use as healthcare providers, health and wellness, that same sort of approach is really critical to an individual person get back to their healthiest, most productive life. And so we do take a very individualized approach. As you baseline assessment that evaluates those 3 important areas.
And that baseline door is free. Also, the exercise plans are free. Another really important piece of this is research. That's a really important.
Absolutely. So we do include both a research component as well as a service component. Allows us to capture information on how the interventions that we're providing or services that we're providing are benefiting individuals. I think that's really critical. We're kind of charting new territory here, and so really providing evidence for the medical integrative health professionals around the world about what approaches that we're using that may be particularly effective in continuing to refine and improve services that not only we provide, but that hopefully others will increasingly be providing. The second point is I think it's important to provide evidence for what we're doing to ultimately so that over time more and more of these services may be covered by insurance providers.
Exactly. Well, congratulations on turning your dream into a reality. And
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, Kylie. I'm Alicia Johnson, Superintendent for Indianapolis Public Schools. Called Advancing Indy Women aims to help Indianapolis women reach their potential in the workforce. A cohort of 60 people have workshops covering personal branding, identifying mentors, and career development planning. The program has experienced much success in its first year. Leaders are looking for funding for a second year. In our Eye on Education, Dr. Kim Saxton, a clinical professor of marketing at IU Kelley School of Business at IUPUI, to share more on the program.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So first, tell me a little bit about Advancing Indy Women. How did this idea?
Well, you can imagine at the Kelley School of Business that we have been training women as business professionals for years. Effort more specifically to look at how to help women advance at a faster rate. And I started doing presentations on negotiation and executive presence. And we just couldn't help but feel like the needle was stuck.
Yeah.
So we wanted to look at manager women or middle level women and think, how can we help them stop hitting the glass ceiling? And we had both been invited to speak at Linking Indy Women. And their directors, Sarah Lacey and Allie Bretnacker. And we thought, this is the perfect group of women to work with. They're already committed to advancing their careers. They're meeting monthly to talk about it. And so we started this partnership with them, and we surveyed their population, their community, to see what kinds of things they thought they needed.
Sure.
And then we invited them to apply, and we had 140 slots, and we made it 62 slots.
Wow. So that was an amazing response, obviously showing lots of women being interested. So tell me, like, what successes are they experiencing? How has the program gone?
Well, so far we're pretty excited. We just did a mid-point survey, and what we discovered, more than 50% of the women had found a new mentor.
Awesome.
25% of the women had gotten a promotion.
Wow, that's incredible.
Incredible. And some people had even in fact, but we think because they looked at what they were doing and thought about where they wanted to go next, they decided to grab the small business by the horns.
Wow. So your research through the survey to understand where those women are and what supports they need. What has your research found?
This group, which is younger and highly educated and were already actively working on their careers, had a personal brand statement. Well, a personal brand statement is about who you think you are and how you're going to communicate that to the world. So it's advanced. And only 20% had a written career development plan, again, specifying where they thought they wanted to go. 10% had a sponsor. So without a sponsor, you don't get pulled through.
Yeah.
But the most amazing thing we discovered is that they had a really high fear of failure. So, so we thought we need some workshops to fix these kinds of things. And so that's why that research, and the last one is about leading with confidence.
Great. Well, I know a little bit about getting to learn in that. It's gotten 1 year down and under your belt. Tell us what you're looking to do in the second year to continue those development efforts for the women in this program.
Well, we were very lucky. Community Scholar Program gave us a seed grant for this first year. And so we'd like to continue the program, but we need the funding to continue the program and invite a larger cohort next year. And we have plenty of people who are already raising their hands.
I can imagine.
But the other thing we discovered is that the women who are in this year want to continue. So we're actually looking at new programming options to keep them engaged. And
great. And so if someone's interested in being supportive, how might they do that?
Yeah, so they can reach out to me at the Kelley School of Business, edu, and we'd be glad to talk about working with a corporation, a nonprofit, a foundation. We're going to continue the partnership with Advancing Indian Women, but we'd like to broaden it as well.
That's amazing. Well, Dr. Kim Sackton with the IU School of Business, thank you for being here, and thank you for the incredible work you're doing to develop women and support them in our community.
Thank you.
Coming up, this woman way before her time. We go one-on-one with Alilia Bundles, who shares more about her great-great-grandmother, Madam C.J. Walker, who made a huge mark in the business world more than 100 years ago. More on her life and how Indianapolis is preserving.
In just a few days, the Netflix biopic Self-Made premieres, and it features the legend C.J. Walker made starting her hair care empire in Indianapolis more than a century ago. Now her legacy of entrepreneurship and business will live on in the Walker Legacy Center, thanks to a partnership with Indiana University and IUPUI. It's been an iconic building for nearly a century in downtown Indianapolis. The Walker Theater is a monument to one of the city's and arguably the country's most successful female innovators of the 20th century. To discuss Madam Walker's life and lasting impact on Indianapolis.
Economic opportunity, economic independence for women.
But first she found economic independence for herself. Walker famously said, "I got my start by giving myself a start." And that she did, going from an uneducated laundress living in Louisiana to becoming the first in America by creating a hair care line for Black women that ultimately brought her business to Indianapolis. So why in the Circle City over a century ago?
She was really looking for a city that had a thriving Black business community, and that was a place where she had primarily a mail order business. And when she visited Indianapolis, she was the publisher of the Indianapolis Freeman, a Black newspaper. That was a chapter of the National Negro Business League here. But she also saw that it was a place where trains were coming through every day, hundreds of trains coming through. The highway system was being built. It was a place that manufactured cars. So Madam Walker could see that this was a place that was a good place to do business, and that is why she settled.
At the time of Walker's death in 1919, her company was bringing in what today would equate to more than $3 million, changing employment for nearly 40,000 workers.
She saw herself in the women who were her sales agents, and she saw they needed education. She helped to create generational wealth for African American families because they could educate their children and buy homes and invest in real estate.
Walker's in the upcoming Netflix series Self-Made, starring Octavia Spencer.
It's really wonderful that this Netflix series inspired a Hollywood production, veers a bit from the actual story, but it does introduce a lot of people to a historical figure who they then I'm hoping they will come visit Indianapolis, come to the Madam Walker Legacy.
Think of women in business today?
She would be happy to see that there's so many women CEOs, more women millionaires than we can count. But I think she'd be frustrated that such a small percentage of venture. So she would say we have really come a long way. There's some really great milestones to look. Way to go so that women are getting the same their businesses.
The grand opening of the Madam Walker Legacy Center is set to open in early June, and again Octavia Spencer as Madam C.J. Walker, and executive producer LeBron James will premiere on March 20th. Well, the panel is getting warmed up to sound off on the challenge Indiana women-owned startups have in finding funding. Guest in an important discussion. There they are in our social media lounge. We'll be right back.
Women's edition of Inside Indiana Business. I'm guest host Kristen Cooper, CEO and founder of the Startup Ladies. Readers offers perspective on the week's top stories. This week, we're sounding off on important issues women face in the workplace, as for securing funding. Our insiders this week: former CFO for Interactive Intelligence, Ashley Vukic, co-founder and COO Stephanie Corliss, and co-founder of Singleton Companies, Judy Singleton. Stephanie, we're going to get started with you. Tell us a little bit about what it has been like for SnapShift.
Challenging, absolutely. You know, SnapShift, we were building something new.
Sure.
In the Midwest, which has its own limitations and barriers. I'm a woman founder. It wasn't really until we got now nationally known that we started getting the traction and excitement that we needed from both the coasts and here back home in Indiana.
Okay, so especially for first-time founders.
It absolutely is.
So Judy, you have invested in a few Indiana startups. Why have you decided in companies?
I have a history of being involved in investing my efforts to promote women in business and in politics. And when I started investing in startups, I was taught a strategy about what kind of businesses you want to invest in. And the first thing that came to my mind is to invest in women-led startups.
That's awesome.
It's, I had reasons. I know women have ways.
Right.
And my first startup in Indiana, it was with Codelish. It's been a wonderful experience.
Christine McDonald is smart and an incredible CEO.
She's terrific.
She is.
She's so terrific.
More women investing in other women. We need more men investing in female-founded companies. Ashley, you have helped enterprise-level companies. Walk us through the fundraising process, and why do more people need to be investing in female founders?
So the raising capital is, there's many different stages of it for startups, but in the beginning, you know, it's usually like a friend. You know, it's people that know the founder, and that's typically where that starts. Then you go to a seed round. You may get some funds involved, may not. Then you start into your series, Series A, Series B. I think women investing in women, but also men investing in women. I think women-led companies may not have they may not have you know, the decks, and may not have a lot of the experience, particularly CEO of a startup, but I think it's important to, you know, revisit and look at the CEO, the founder, look at the product, look at the market, and give women a fair shake.
Right. The founder, the market, the potential ROI, so important when making those decisions. Judy, tell me what you want to see when a founder approaches you.
Well, first I would look at her leadership ability, and in the first 5 or 10 minutes of visiting with somebody. And then I would look at the strength of her idea, because it has to make sense rough and tumble, and ideas are coming up that I would have never understood are possible.
Sure.
And then I would us, and I also would see if she's the kind of woman who supports other women.
Oh, I love that.
I feel like I want to, and I want to get a realistic view of what is possible to make, and I do a good deed for women who are trying to start a new business.
Right.
So I have to see a reasonable, get 10 times my money back, you know, in 2 years. I know that's a little funny. So
right, yeah. But smart to give you the deal you need to invest in. So Stephanie, you have been raising money for a little while. Investor like Judy versus pitching to a fund?
There are a lot of similarities. There are with an angel, you're going to build that relationship, that rapport with a little bit more. You get to know them almost, I don't want to say a personal level.
Right.
You court each other,
right.
honestly. You also want to make sure that the angel's a good fit for you.
Right.
That's what they are going to invest in.
Yeah.
They also want to, make sure that their investment is safe. They're a little less risk averse, they are more risk averse than your typical VC fund or additional money. Whereas the VC, they want to know strictly about the team,
sure,
the market size, and can you execute.
Right.
They don't even care about the product as much.
Yeah.
And with them, they don't really get to know you. They really want to see your track record, either as being a founder before, what projects and where you've worked before.
Right.
That's how they validate the team.
Okay.
So
pre-seed funding is tough. You have helped people at different stages secure that kind of funding. Talk to us about what pre-seed funding is.
Yeah, well, it's very important because it's really the money you're going to use to get your product or service off the ground. And so I invest in more in tech startups. There can be substantial funds that a company needs to get a tech product off the ground. Funds that friends and family, pre-seed funds are very important because those are the funds you're going to use to hire employees, to, if you're a manufacturer. It's just really important, and you really need to tap into your network of friends and family. You can't feel bad as an investor, and you're investing in these startups. I mean, what I do, and I'm sure what Judy does. I mean, we set a go towards these startups, and you have to know that you might not. That mindset, as well as the other thing I learned was we're not talking dollars that an individual is going to invest. I mean, there's sometimes it could be $5,000. A lot of times it's $25,000. So you know that you're not looking for hundreds of thousands or $1 million. So it's really important to get those. Get a product or service, maybe even get a few customers, and then you can start talking more to some of the funds or.
Thank you all for joining us, and we'll be right back after this. Stay with us.
Well, that's all the time we have this week. We want to give a special thanks to all of our great on this special all-women's edition of our show. And in honor of Women's History Month and International Women's Day, we also want to salute the phenomenal who helped to make Indiana great. Thanks for joining us this week. I'm Gary Dick. Go out and make
Inside Indiana Business with Gary Dick is a production of Grow Indiana Media Ventures with support from WFYI Productions.